The top stories tonight in Y News. Maynilad Water Services Incorporated extends its rotational water service interruption until November 29.
The management of North Luzon Expressway or NLEX to impose higher toll rates starting November 25.
Several progressive groups protest amid Senate probe on red tagging. President Rodrigo Duterte declines naming congressmen linked to questionable DPWH project.
Coronavirus vaccine by AstraZeneca and Oxford shows up to 90% effective in late-stage trials. The Philippines securing deal with British drug maker.
And the Department of Health urged the public to shop online and meet their family and friends virtually this holiday season. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Tuesday, November 24, 2020. I am Harleen Delgado.
Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the country and in other parts of the world. I'm Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
First in the news, a coronavirus disease 2019 vaccine developed by drug firm AstraZeneca and Oxford University had shown 70% effectiveness in trials involved 23,000 people. Earl Briones will give us more details live. Yes, Earl?
Harleen, AstraZeneca said on Monday its COVID-19 vaccine was 70% effective in pivotal trials and could be up to 90% effective, giving the world's fight against the global pandemic a third new weapon that can be cheaper to make, easier to distribute, and faster to scale up than rivals. The British drug maker said it will have as many as 200 million doses by the end of 2020, around 4 times as many as U.S. competitor Pfizer. 700 million doses could be ready globally as soon as the end of the first quarter of 2021. The vaccine on average prevented 70% of COVID-19 cases in late-stage trials in Britain and Brazil. The success rate rose to 90% in a group of trial participants who accidentally received a half dose followed by a full dose. The efficacy was 62% if the full dose was given twice, as it was for most study participants. AstraZeneca said it will immediately apply for early approval of the vaccine where possible, and it will seek an emergency use listing from the World Health Organization so it can make the shot available in low-income countries. No serious safety events during trial period were confirmed, the company said, although little safety data was provided. The AstraZeneca vaccine does have advantages. It cost to governments works out as just few dollars a shot, a fraction of the price of the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, who are using a new and more complex technology. It can also be transported and stored in normal fridge temperatures, which proponents say would make it easier to distribute, especially in poor countries, than Pfizer's, which needs to be shipped and stored at negative 70 degrees Celsius. The Philippines is close to concluding talks with AstraZeneca on the purchase of at least 20 million vaccine doses, a top coronavirus task force official said on Monday. The World Health Organization's chief scientist, Soumya Swaminathan, said the World Health Organization is anxious to see full efficacy and safety data and encourage other vaccine developers to just continue, saying vast quantities and a variety of shots will be needed. Harleen?
Thank you, Early Briones, reporting live from Australia. Meanwhile, the government will prioritize areas with high cases of novel coronavirus disease or COVID-19, such as Metro Manila, Davao, and Cebu, will be prioritized in the distribution of the vaccine once it becomes available. Kath Dumaraos will tell us why.
National Task Force Against COVID-19 Chief Implementer and Vaccine Czar Carlito Galvez Jr. disclosed the government's distribution method of the vaccines after the government started negotiations with 3 vaccine manufacturers, namely AstraZeneca, Sinovac, and Pfizer, for the country's potential supply. During a meeting on the Interagency Task Force on the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases, or IATF-MEID, in Davao City on Monday, Galvez said they will employ 2 strategies in the distribution of the vaccine: geographical and sectoral. Once the infected areas have been selected, vaccines will then be distributed to the target beneficiaries. The vaccine czar expressed confidence that these strategies will help the country contain the spread of the virus and recover from economic losses due to the pandemic. Immunizing areas with high number of COVID-19 infections will help the government in its assessment on the efficacy of the vaccines, according to Galvez. So far, several vaccine developers are set to conduct clinical trials in the Philippines. These include Sinovac, Hansen, Johnson & Johnson, Gamaleya, AstraZeneca, and CanSino. Galvez earlier projected that the vaccine supply can be made available by the second quarter of 2021 once an agreement has been signed. The Philippine government previously said it is looking at multilateral financing institutions such as the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank to finance vaccine procurements. Local banks such as the Land Bank of the Philippines and Development Bank of the Philippines are also possible sources of funds. Kat Dumaraos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, Malacanang warned flea market operators of possible closure if public minimum health protocols against COVID-19 will not be strictly implemented. Rosalie Cos explains why.
As people started to fill shopping centers for holiday season, President Rodrigo Duterte renewed his call to strictly follow minimum health protocols to prevent a post-holiday surge of the coronavirus disease 2019 cases.
Importante is that to wear mask, then washing of the hands, tapos social distancing. Kung maaari lang, huwag ka na lang lumapit. Ngayon, hindi na uso ngayon na lumapit ka pa.
President Duterte made the remarks after Health Secretary Francisco Duque III cautioned against complacency in the fight against the coronavirus during the holiday season. In the meeting with the President, Duque said the Health Department would prepare a contingency plan in case the country faces a post-holiday season surge in the number of cases. He added that the DOH issued a circular reiterating the importance of following the minimum health protocols, especially during the holidays. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque, meanwhile, warns flea market operators of possible closure if measures to prevent COVID-19 transmissions are not in place.
Pag hindi po kayo nag-control ng crowd, baka mapasara kayo, lalo kayo mawala ng negosyo.
The country logged 1,799 new cases and 50 new deaths yesterday, November 23. These figures brought the total number of active cases to 25,837 and the death toll to 8,173. Rosa Licos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Health officials issued an advisory urging the public to do their shopping online and meet with their family and friends through virtual or digital technology. Aiko Miguel will tell us why live. Yes, Aiko, good evening.
Yes, William, good evening. Most visited places by consumers during holiday season are markets, groceries, malls, and even in Divisoria. People are inclined to buy things in Divisoria because they are cheap, especially items in bulk. But this holiday season, William, amid the COVID-19 pandemic, the Department of Health warns the public. According to DOH Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere, even if a person is wearing a face mask and face shield, these cannot protect someone from being infected with COVID-19 if they go to crowded areas. Here is Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere.
Sa mga matataong lugar na halos dikit-dikit na po kayo, maari pa rin po kayong mahawa. The risk is there and it's very high. Kaya nga po atin po sanang iwasan ang pagpunta sa mga matataong lugar kung maaari po. At kung sakasakaling kailangan naman talagang mamili dahil that's part of our celebrations, maari naman siguro po na magkaroon po tayo ng mga ibang pamamaraan.
Vergere issued the reminder after shoppers were shown crowding the streets of Divisoria in Manila during the weekend to beat the holiday rush. Vendors in Divisoria admit some of their customers tend to forget the health protocols and they worry about their health.
Sinasabihan naman po namin na magbigay po sila ng distansya eh. Madami po talaga. Kaya mas maganda po bentahan. Maging vigilante po sa bawat oras na naglalakad po sila dito.
Pinapaayos na lang po namin yung mask. Sa pinapalayo-layo namin ng konti. Mga pulis, oras-oras po may pabalik-balik po. Para sabihan din yung mga nagtitinda sa yung mga namimili.
According to a customer, William, he chooses to buy things during weekdays to avoid crowded areas.
Kung pwede nga lang sa bahay na lang. Tapos kung lalabas naman, siguro ugaliin na mayroong face mask, tapos lagi may alcohol. Patient daw, kaya nabali eh. Kaya hindi ko masuot eh. Hindi naman ako dumidikit sa mga tao eh.
With the health department asked the public to find alternative ways by which they could shop and welcome the holidays safely. The DOH advises the public to do their shopping online and meet with their family and friends through virtual or digital technology. The health department emphasized not only there is cure against COVID-19, people's lives will not go back to the way they used to be. Though the government has eased quarantine restrictions, especially in Metro Manila, observing minimum health standards will prevent cases to spike this holiday season. And that is the latest live. Back to you, William.
Thank you. Aiko Miguel reporting live.
The total number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in the Philippines soared to 421,722 after the Department of Health recorded 1,118 additional cases today. The DOH recorded 196 new recoveries and 12 more deaths, raising the total tally respectively to 386,792 and 8,185. Caloocan City logged the highest number of new cases with 89, followed by Davao City with 52, Laguna with 52, Quezon Province with 47, and Quezon City with 46. The country's number of active cases is currently at 26,745. Of this, 83.7 are mild, 7.9% are asymptomatic, 5.3% are critical, and 2.8% are severe. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere encouraged the public to consider resorting to virtual activities during this holiday season to mitigate the spread of the virus that causes COVID-19. In other news, motorists should expect higher toll fares on NLEX beginning November 25. Dante Amento explains why.
The management of North Luzon Expressway or NLEX said it would implement a rate hike starting November 25, Wednesday as approved by the Toll Regulatory Board. The NLEX Corporation said there would be 4 pesos increase in the open system through Class 1 vehicles. Class 2 vehicles will pay additional 10 pesos, while Class 3 vehicles will pay additional 11 pesos. The toll hike covers the open system in Balintawak, Quezon City to Marilao, Bulacan. Attorney Romulo Kimbo, Senior Vice President for Communication and Stakeholder Management of NLEX Corporation, said the toll hike will be implemented following the completion of the NLEX Harbor Link elevated section. This road section spans 2.6 kilometers between the Caloocan interchange at C3 Road and 5th Avenue and the new Navotas interchange along R10 and Mel Lopez Boulevard.
Nagtaas po tayo ng toll dahil natapos na yung extension natin sa Harbor Link, yung 2.6 kilometer na bagong expressway na binuksan na natin noong June 15.
For motorists on end-to-end travel from Metro Manila to Mabalacat in Pampanga, there will be charged an additional 9 pesos for Class 1 vehicles, 20 pesos for Class 2, and 25 pesos for Class 3 vehicles. The NLEX Harbor Link helped ease the congestion in some parts of Quezon City and the Manila areas as it offered an alternative route for commuters and truckers affected by traffic choke along EDSA A. Bonifacio and Rizal Avenue in Manila. Dantiamento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
And for those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
The Maynilad Water Services Incorporated announced it will extend until November 29 the rotational water service interruptions being implemented in its service areas. Joanano tells us why.
As Maynilad is having a hard time to remove the sludge from its sedimentation basin from La Mesa Water Treatment Plant accumulated due to the highly turbid raw water brought by Typhoon Ulysses, the water service provider is extending the rotational service interruption in some of its service areas until November 29. According to Maynilad, 3 of their sedimentation basin were affected by the sludge accumulation. One of those is now fully operational, the second one is clear of sludge and is now being refilled. However, the third basin is taking longer as it was expected due to the huge amount of accumulated sludge.
Nahihirapan po kami na i-flush out or alisin yung sludge na yon na nagsettle dun sa basin. Medyo mas matigas po siya or mas sticky siya at ang hirap po niyang padaluyan dun sa discharge pipeline niya.
With this, 70% of Maynilad's customer is still affected by the water service interruptions. This covers residents from Las Piñas, Muntinlupa, Parañaque, Pasay, Makati, Malabon, Navotas, Manila, Quezon City, and several towns in Cavite. Although Maynilad has extended their service interruption, they said that customers may expect shorter period of no water supply. Meanwhile, Maynilad said that customers may expect the recurrence of this problem in the event of another typhoon as they are yet to finish the upgrade of their water treatment, which is expected to be completed by 2021.
Sakali man pong dumating na mayroong pag-ulan na naman at mas lalabo ulit yung raw water, ganun pa rin po yung posibleng mangyari na magbabawas po kami ng aming produksyon. Depende po doon sa haba ng duration na madumi or malabo yung raw water.
Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
In other news, President Rodrigo Duterte has approved the additional 1.5 billion pesos to augment the calamity funds of local government units hit by Typhoon Ulysses. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque has confirmed that President Duterte signed the fund request for typhoon-hit LGUs on Monday night. 25 local governments will benefit from the allocation, including Marikina and other Metro Manila cities. The government has previously released 1.5 billion pesos to provinces in Bicol and Calabarzon regions. Roque, meanwhile, assures the public that the Duterte administration will fairly treat all LGUs regardless if they are members of the opposition.
Taliwas sa mga sinasabi ng kritiko sa panahon ng kalamidad at sakuna, walang pinipili at hindi namumulitika Administrasyong Duterte. Maliwanag pa sa sikat ng araw, lahat ay pantay-pantay, lahat mabibigyan, kaalyado man o hindi, bumoto man o hindi.
The House of Representatives began its investigation into the flooding caused by the recent typhoons in Luzon. Lawmakers want to establish facts that could lead to corrective actions and not to find fault. Ray Pelayo explains why.
The Committee on Agriculture and Food and the Special Committee on North Luzon Growth Quadrangle jointly made an inquiry to the resolution filed by House Speaker Alan Velasco and Bagong Henerasyon Party List Representative Bernadette Herrera D to investigate the floodings affecting some areas in Luzon. In the hearing, Pagasa Administrator Dr. Vicente Malano said that they have already alarmed the authorities and the public that Typhoon Ulysses may cause floods because the soil is already saturated.
At ang sabi ko po doon during the press conference, mag-iingat po tayo dito dahil saturated na po yung kalupaan. At pagdating po ni Ulysses, si Ulysses po ay nasa 400 kilometers yung kanyang radius ng influence. So kaya po widespread po talaga yung ulan na dinala niya.
But days before the typhoon made landfall in the country, the National Irrigation Administration already conducted a gradual release of water from Magat Dam triggered by the information supplied by Pagasa. Administrator Retired General Ricardo Visaya said that on November 9, they advised the communities downstream 6 hours before they opened the gate. This is to give ample time for them to do actions like preemptive evacuations if needed. The official noted that Magat River is only one of the 20 tributaries in Cagayan River. He adds that they strictly followed the protocol.
It could have contributed to the flooding na Hindi naman namin po dinideny dahil may tubig naman talaga lumabas. But hindi yun talaga yung major reason or major cause ng flooding.
Representative Herrera D asked if there is an agency that calculate the possible magnitude of flood that it may cause downstream.
Sinong nag-analyze ng effect doon sa provinces where the dam is located or where flooding is occurring?
Yusek Ricardo Harad of the Office of the Civil Defense said that various agencies are part of the NDRRMC, including the DPWH, who is in charge of the flood control project in the whole country. The DPWH, on the other hand, said that there is already a master plan as early as 2002, but it was not pushed through because of the lack of funding.
In this Cagayan, we have the master plan in 2002 and feasibility study. However, because of the magnitude cost during that time, Mr. Chair, it was not pushed through for financing.
The NDRRMC is now considering the creation of a committee that will address dam concerns. The committees will invite the River Basin Control Office under the DENR. Ray Pilayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Philippine National Police or PNP Chief Debold Sinas has ordered the suspension of the localization program that deploys police personnel in or near their areas of residence. The Ilagad will tell us why.
PNP Chief Police General Debold Sinas has ordered the stoppage of the localization program in the deployment of police personnel. The program was initiated by his predecessor, General Camilo Cascolan, based on the concept that policemen who are assigned in their hometowns or near their hometowns are less prone to commit abuses and engage in illegal activities. According to General Sinas, the program was impractical and does not conform with the existing policy of the police organization.
I already stopped it. We have procedures on how to transfer. We have procedures, we have policy to follow. Okay? Sa guidance ko, we observe it properly.
More or less 5,000 policemen have already been reassigned back to their hometowns in the past 2 months. Most of them are from Metro Manila. Sinas adds Cascolan's localization program has greatly affected the National Capital Region Police Office or NCRPO when he was still the Metro Manila Police Chief.
Hindi kami sigurado na yung mga tao namin na pinauwi namin sa mga probinsya ay infected or not. And it affects the anti-criminality campaign namin at it also affects our external COVID response namin.
The chief PNP disclosed that some of those included in the transfer denied applying for transfer of assignment.
Yung iba, may mga instances yung iba na parang gusto nilang mag-retain. Marami pong nagpa-revoke ng order. Kasi ang sabi nila, hindi naman talaga sila nag-request. No? I don't know kung sino ba talaga nagsasabi ng totoo.
Sinas also instructed the Directorate for Personnel Records and Management, or DPRM, to assist those who want to revoke the transfer of their assignment to their hometowns. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Hours before the second hearing of the Senate Committee on National Defense on the issue of red tagging, several groups protested outside the Senate compound. Progressive groups Kabataan and Anak Bayan held their placards as they denounced the red tagging activities of the Duterte administration. However, there was also a protest by groups of parents whose children were allegedly missing or killed after joining militant groups and were later on recruited in the new People's Army. In today's hearing, Bayan Muna Parlous Representative Carlos Zarate, its former representatives Teddy Casino and Attorney Nery Colmenares were physically present. Zarate vehemently denied accusations that he and the Makabayan Bloc are members of the Communist Party of the Philippines, its armed wing New People's Army, and political arm National Democratic Front of the Philippines or NDFP.
Pilit kaming iniugnay sa terorismo. Ito ay isang malaking kasinungalingan. Tahasan kong sinasabi sa komiting ito, Mr. Chair, na hindi ako miyembro ng Communist Party of the Philippines, hindi ako rebelde, at hindi ako miyembro ng National Democratic Front of the Philippines. Tahasan ko rin pinasisinungalingan na ang aking partido, ang Bayan Muna, ay creation at kontrolado ng Communist Party of the Philippines.
Meanwhile, Kabataan Parlous Representative Sara Elago turned emotional as she described the threats and harassment that activists receive due to red tagging. Elago also slammed the police and the military and even the National Intelligence Coordinating Agency or NICA for spreading lies and fake news about her on social media.
Sabihin niyo sa amin na walang red tagging. Sabihin niyo sa amin na hindi delikado ang pag-red tag. Sabihin niyo sa amin na wala kaming dapat ikabahala. Hindi ako NPA, hindi ako NPA recruiter, hindi po bahagi o front ng CPP ang Kabataan Party List. Hindi NPA recruiter ang Kabataan Party List. Hindi rin ito nagre-recruit para maging NPA.
Casino and Colmenares also denied the claims of former rebel Jeffrey Celis, also known as Ka Eric, who is one of the main witnesses of the government. The former Solon said Celis' accusations have no basis and substantial evidence. Colmenares also doubts the credibility of Celis, pointing out some inconsistencies in his previous statements and also his involvement in the president's narco list in 2016.
Hindi po ako rebelde, Mr. Chair. Hindi po ako terorista. At hindi po ako front ng mga rebelde o terorista. Ako po ay isang aktivista.
Palagi na nilang sinasabi na, kayo dyan sa Makabayan, NPA kayo. Pag tinatanong mo, paano mo nalaman? Wala lang. Ang sagot nila dyan, kasi hindi nyo kinukondena ang armed struggle. Failure to condemn is not even a crime in the Philippines.
However, Celis said that he will give the committee supporting documents to prove his claims.
Iisa lang po ang hindi masabi ni Teddy Casino sa harap ng kapulungan ito at ng kanyang mga kasabwat sa pagkukunwari. Hindi niya maamin-amin ang armadong pakikibaka. Because sila ay patuloy na nagkukubli sa sinasabi ni Joma Sison na sila ay bahagi ng Legal Democratic Forces.
The National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict or NTF-LCAC also presented new witnesses who were alleged former rebels and were first recruited by militant groups and later on became NPA members. Before the end of the hearing, Senator Panfilo Lacson, who chairs the committee, asked Bayan Muna if they denounce their former members who have decided to become communist rebels and join the armed struggle. Casino and Zarate say they do not consider them as enemies as it would only shut doors for political settlement.
Definitely, we do not consider them as enemies. Do not consider them as enemies.
They are
Patay sila ng mga taong gobyerno, ng mga mayors,
they are engaged in rebellion, Mr. Chair. They are conducting or committing an illegal act. But we do not judge them to be enemies. Ang tingin namin, ginawa nila yon because hindi sila nasasapatan.
I'm sorry to say this, but I cannot reconcile.
The Senate hearing on the issue of alleged red tagging will resume next week. President Rodrigo Duterte said he would refer to the Office of the Ombudsman the information he received about some members of the House of Representatives who had allegedly received kickbacks from project contractors. But the president has refused to investigate and name the allegedly corrupt lawmakers. Rosa Licons will tell us why.
President Rodrigo Duterte, during his public address on Monday evening, said he already has the list of congressmen allegedly involved in certain irregularities or questionable projects in the Department of Public Works and Highways or DPWH. The said lawmakers are allegedly profiting from infrastructure projects by hiring their preferred contractors and asking for kickbacks. The report is based on the investigation conducted by the Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission or PACC. The chief executive, however, did not disclose the names of the lawmakers. He said it is beyond his power as president to investigate members of an institution of equal authority with the executive branch.
If I cannot investigate the congressmen, then I have no authority to be releasing their names that they are involved per investigation by the
Nonetheless, the president said he will submit the list to the Office of the Ombudsman along with pieces of evidence collated by the PACC and the Department of Justice or DOJ.
I have no other recourse. Itapon ko rin yan doon sa Ombudsman because it is the only investigating agency that has jurisdiction over congressmen. Hindi ako.
Rosa Licos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
For those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
A community learning hub in Pasig City allows face-to-face sessions between tutors and students. But the Department of Education clarifies that the Learning Hub project, initiated by the Office of the Vice President, has not been approved to operate. Asher Kadapan Jr. explains why.
The Kaliwag Learning Hub in Pasig City has been conducting face-to-face tutorial service to students under distance learning since October. The operation exclusively serves students from the enclosed residential compound beside the facility after school hours. It aims to provide free assistance to lower grade students who are having difficulties in topics under the distance learning education.
Those lessons na talagang hindi nyo maintindihan, even though yun ay napagdaanan nyo na, let's go back. Tuturuan namin kayo para maintindihan ninyo.
Sa akin, napakalaki ng halaga dahil yung katulad namin na walang kakayan magturo, na laking bagay na natuturuan sila doon.
Its facility allows a maximum of 10 persons with up to 6 students at a time and observes health and safety measures, including temperature check and regular sanitation against COVID-19 transmission. But despite all these measures, Secretary Leonor Briones said that the Department of Education did not approve this project initiated by the Office of the Vice President Leni Robredo.
Last August, nag-request ang Office ng Vice President na nagsasabi na sinasuggest nila yung project na yan. Tapos sinagot namin, humingi kami ng details. Tapos on record yan lahat at saka binigyan namin ng kopya ang President at saka ang Executive Secretary ng aming mga sagot. So on record yan lahat. At ang polisiya namin, dahil sinusunod namin ang utos ng Presidente, hindi natin yan inaalaw.
DepEd further explains that face-to-face classes or sessions has not been allowed this year. It may be permitted to safe areas in 2021, but it should have clearance from the Department of Health and the Interagency Task Force on the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases or IATF. But OVP spokesperson Attorney Barry Gutierrez said in a statement that DepEd did not express any opposition to the project until this day. Gutierrez also explains that hubs are not meant to be sites for classroom or face-to-face instructions, but instead a facility to support students for tutorial needs and other academic resources. Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And for the news abroad, here's Stephanie C. reporting live from Hong Kong.
Good evening, William. United States President-elect Joe Biden has been formally given the go-ahead by a federal agency to begin his transition to the presidency, shortly after the battleground state of Michigan certified him as the winner there. Sonny Cos will tell us why.
After weeks of waiting, President Donald Trump's administration cleared the way for President-elect Joe Biden to transition to the White House, giving him access to briefings and funding even as Trump vowed to continue fighting the election results. Trump, who had refused to concede the election, said in a tweet that he was directing his team to cooperate on the transition but is vowing to keep up the fight. In a tweet, Trump wrote that Murphy and her team should do what needs to be done with regards to initial protocols and have told my team to do the same. Biden won 306 state-by-state electoral votes, well over the 207 needed for victory, to Trump's 232. Biden also holds a lead of more than 6 million in the national popular vote. The Biden team welcomed the start of the transition process as the Democratic president-elect gears up to be sworn in on January 20. Earlier, Biden unveiled a foreign policy and national security team consisting of old colleagues from his years in the Obama administration. He will appoint Anthony Blinken as Secretary of State and John Kerry as Climate Envoy, while Janet Yellen is tipped to be the first female U.S. Treasury Secretary. Trump and his advisors will continue to pursue legal avenues, but with Trump authorizing the official transition to proceed, the president and his team might be signaling that they are getting closer to moving on with election results. Sonny Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, USA. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Hong Kong democracy activist Joshua Wong and two fellow campaigners are facing the prospect of prison after pleading guilty to unlawful assembly during last year's mass protests. Wong, Ivan Lam, and Agnes Chow appeared in court on Monday. Wong said he expected to go to jail, possibly facing 5 years behind bars. However, as the alleged offenses took place before China enacted a harsh national security law in June, they avoided a potential life sentence. The prominent activist revealed he decided to change his plea after talking to his lawyer and vowed to continue to fight for freedom. The three were remanded in custody until 2nd December when they will be sentenced. Meanwhile, carbon dioxide levels continue to rise from record levels despite the economic slowdown caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Marvy Delphine will give us the details live. Marvy?
Steph, according to the World Meteorological Organization, or WMO, the industrial slowdown due to the COVID-19 pandemic has not curbed record levels of greenhouse gases, which are trapping heat in the atmosphere, increasing temperatures, and driving more extreme weather. WMO Secretary General Petteri Talas endorsed a different curve to be flattened, not one of the COVID-19 infection rate. Talas said in a statement, "We breached the global threshold of 400 parts per million, and just 4 years later, we crossed 410 parts per million. Such a rate of increase has never been seen in the history of our records. The lockdown-related fall in emissions is just a tiny blip on the long-term graph. We need a sustained flattening of the curve." Talas added that reduced activity associated with COVID-19 lockdowns is expected to cut carbon emissions by 4 to 7% this year, but but will have no measurable impact on carbon dioxide concentrations in the atmosphere. While Oksana Tarasova, WMO's Chief of Atmospheric and Environment Research Division, emphasized that although it looked like the pandemic had brought the world to a standstill, carbon emissions had continued almost unwavered because lockdowns only reduced mobility and not overall energy consumption. At the opening of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change Dialogues yesterday, Executive Secretary Patricia Espinosa shared a video on Twitter saying that COVID-19 hasn't put climate change on hold, and that while a vaccine may yet help us emerge from COVID-19, there is no vaccine for the global climate emergency. But Professor Tallis suggested that in order to meet the goals of the 2015 Paris Agreement, in which governments pledged to try to stop global temperatures rising above pre-industrial levels, the world needed to switch from coal, oil, and gas-fired energy towards solar, wind, hydropower, and nuclear power. This could also be done by adopting less polluting modes of transport, including electric vehicles, biofuels, hydrogen, and bicycles. Professor Tallis highlighted that U.S. President-elect Joe Biden had indicated during his election campaign that he would initiate a big financial stimulus for carbon-friendly technologies. The World Meteorological Organization hopes that this will have a domino effect globally and might motivate some other countries to join the movement towards climate action. Steph?
All right, Marvy, thank you for that report live from Australia. And those are the reasons behind the news here in Hong Kong and in other parts of the globe. For those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook. Back to you, William.
Thank you, Stephanie C., reporting live from Hong Kong.
The University of the Philippines, or UP, will be training the second batch of Filipino satellite builders under the Space and Science and Technology Proliferation through University Partnerships, or STEP-UP program. The university's Electrical and Electronics Engineering Institute will train them to apply their knowledge in launching Maya 5 and Maya 6. The first batch used the knowledge they gained to create the first locally built nano or cube satellites, Maya 3 and 4. UP College of Engineering Dean Ferdinand G. Manegdeg said the satellites can contribute considerably to the country's economic, territorial, and disaster risk reduction efforts. And those are the reasons behind the news, November 24, 2020. I am Harleen Delgado.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.